Hey everybody, welcome back to Spent, where every week myself, Preet Banerjee, and Derek Fung dive into some of the largest purchase panels in North America to see how people are really spending their money. Derek, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back, Preet.
So this week we're going to talk about Peloton, and this is interesting because Peloton was one of the first case studies that Cartify put a report out on back in, I think it was March or so, because due to the pandemic there was this massive surge in Peloton sales. But now you've gone back and you've taken another look at the data to see what's going on. So we're going to see whether or not people like the Pelotons that they bought, if it's going to change their workout behaviors and more. And I'm going to be bugging you specifically because I know that you have a Peloton because there's one right behind you.
There's one right here.
That is what a Peloton is, if anyone was wondering. It's a stationary bike with a massive screen in front of it. Okay, so let's talk about the overall trend in sales. Walk us through what's happened as the pandemic first started and why we're seeing this secondary surge in the data as well.
Yeah, no, I'd say March, April, clearly there was a massive spike in Peloton sales. If you look at the report on the Cartify website, a lot of that was driven actually by new customers, in particular millennial men who were not Peloton customers before, who then bought Pelotons, and not only did they subscribe, they bought the actual bike. And what you're seeing here is a second spike, we believe driven by some of the states that in the U.S. and also certain areas across North America where maybe certain cases of COVID are getting a bit worse and consumers are getting a bit more nervous to go out and go back to their gym, and hence you're seeing the spike in sales. I also do believe, and I have some more to share today about now that certain gyms are opening up, the experience is actually not great. Like it's not what it used to be like, and I'm sure a ton of the consumers, maybe having gone back to the gym, came back and said, you know what, I'm gonna actually stay at home and work out from home. And
yeah, some of the protocols that they've instituted make it much more of a hassle to work out. There's lineups to get into gyms. So certainly when it comes to the hassle factor, you can see why, oh, you know what, maybe I'll just get that bike after all, because going back to the gym is quite a bit different, at least for now, than it used to be.
Totally.
So let's take a look at the impact of the pandemic on people's purchasing decisions for Pelotons. So walk us through this chart.
Yeah, I'd say that the main takeaway here is that a lot of consumers, a lot of just media think, oh, Peloton, is it a fad? Is it here to stay? We did survey the consumers that did buy Pelotons, and for the most part, a lot of these consumers had already been thinking about buying a Peloton, and I'd say with the lockdown, it helped tip their decision. But for the most part, they had already been thinking about buying one, myself included. I saw them at the malls. They were, looked really nicely designed, and so I was thinking about it, and I'd say, it was really just pushed to make that decision because of the lockdown.
Yeah, this chart shows us that, only 18% of people identified that the pandemic was the main driver. 50% of people were already in the mindset of, yeah, I'm going to buy that Peloton. And then, almost a third of people were kind of like just pushed over, like past the tipping point. So they were kind of on their mind, but the pandemic said, all right, well, you know what? Now there's definitely a reason to buy it. So it's interesting to see the breakdown of the purchasing psychology.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to how often people work out, very simple chart on the left showing, what is the workout frequency prior to COVID. But I wanted to sort of zero in more on the right-hand side here.
Yep.
And that is the characteristics of the Peloton purchasers in terms of whether they go to the gym and especially fitness classes. So what can you tell us here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Peloton consumers are very active people. They go to their gym, but not only that, they really love their classes. And whether it's SoulCycle, Barry's Boot Camp or some of the other gyms out there in which they have classes. They are big class goers, and with no classes happening, they have probably gone to the next best thing, which is having a class on this screen here, and it's really good quality. Like if you've ever not yet tried one, try a class. It's really high quality. I've even got my wireless Bose, the headphones. Like it feels like you're really there, and
Hmm.
so I think it's really a great experience. And classes are also limited. So with gyms opening up, I don't know if you are aware of some of the new protocols, but most gyms are only open on weekdays. You have to wear a mask when you're in the gym as you're working out, and classes are limited to something like 10 to 20 people. And so
Hmm.
you're not really getting that full experience that you used to get. Hence, a lot of people are buying this bike to get, a probably better experience while at home in the comfort of their own home.
Yeah, when in the city where I live, they announced that they were moving to stage three, which basically said that gyms could reopen. And so my gym contacted me and said, "Hey, we've paused payments on your membership, but now that things have been unlocked, you're allowed to come back. Yay!" And they also said, "But if you want to cancel, here's the button to click." And I clicked the button right away. I'm not ready to go back to a gym. And based on what you've said, even if I were to go to that gym, it sounds like it'd be a totally different experience.
Very,
So I've had to find alternative ways
yeah.
to exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I just came back from a park workout, so hence still in my gym clothes actually. It's,
Right.
the weather here is quite nice, so a lot of people resorting to also park workouts, which have been great.
Yeah. So my partner and I, we've been doing the Couch to 10K running program,
Okay, cool.
and we've been very very consistent actually. Every other day, sometimes 2 days off, where we're running and working our way up.
Yeah,
But we had to do something, right? So with the lockdown and not being able to access the gyms, you can see why there's this desire to be able to do something physical. And for a lot of people, it's Peloton. Other people have other options, but running is not for everyone. It's not that easy, at least not for me.
yeah.
But when it comes to people who have decided to go the Peloton route, I don't know if I would find this surprising, but the vast majority of people are either highly satisfied or at least somewhat satisfied with their purchase. And I can see why. I mean, it's a beautiful bike. It looks like a beautiful experience. And of course, if you've just plunked down a couple grand, you're probably not going to say that you don't like it. That it'd be very hard to sort of justify that, right?
Yeah, although if you saw, I mean, it's also on the Cardify website, but the buy now, pay later,
Our last episode.
last episode, you can get one of these bikes pretty much with not much upfront and just pay it down over, a period of time. So
Yeah, it's like supplementing or replacing your gym membership, and that stopped, and so now you've got another monthly payment, which is for your Peloton and the classes. So again, you can see why it's like the timing was just perfect for Peloton, and unfortunately, this pandemic was probably a boon to their sales. Now, this one I found very interesting, but for probably a different reason than some people would think based on their initial look at this. So this is looking at the impact of buying a Peloton on people's motivation to work out, their frequency to work out, and their intensity. So what stands out to you here looking at these three columns?
yeah, I mean, looking at the chart, I mean, you see some big purple whereby a lot of consumers bought, and their intensity, their frequency increased, and they've got the green, which are people who somehow bought them, but and things went down. Um, I I'm probably somewhere in between. It's sometimes it's tough because I live in a condo, and you can see here that this Peloton. I mean, if you saw my full room, it's a very small room.
Right.
I'd say that you buy it and you get all excited, and sometimes it's hard to, you know, I'd say experience the same type of experience you get, at the gym and with others, around. So I'd say there's, clearly, it's not all consumers are 100% satisfied. There are some, who maybe the Peloton's collecting dust and they're not using it as much as they want. I may be in that category, given that it's beautiful outside, right? Like you can go outside and you can do your workout outside. So Yeah, I'd say that's really what this chart says to me.
Yeah,
I
and
look,
that is the part that stuck out to me is the green, and that is for the people who said that they have decreased motivation, frequency, and intensity after buying a Peloton. Now that is still the minority of purchasers. So the majority of purchasers they saw an increase, but the ones that did stick out to me were the green, and I can see why. And you've kind of covered it in your answer, but when you actually go to a class, it's much harder to stop halfway through. You're pretty committed. Whereas if you're at home, you could start and no one's going to judge you if you stop unless
yeah,
I don't know how it works. So there is a bit of a social network aspect to it as well. But it's very easy to just say, oh, I'll just get to it tomorrow because it's right there. And
yeah,
that's also part of the problem is like, because it's always there and you think, well, yeah, I could just get to it, tomorrow. It's right there. And
yeah.
that's what makes it so easy to keep pushing it further and further down the road.
Unless you're doing one of the live classes, so you can actually do
Oh,
live
right.
classes where sometimes the instructor will call you out.
Oh, really? Oh, see, now that is interesting. I'm not too familiar with the total, the full dynamics of Peloton, but I do remember that. Yeah, there are live classes as well as recorded classes, like
Yeah,
routines you can follow. Yeah, so I would imagine that the live classes would definitely help with that, and maybe those are the people that were in the pink um,
for sure,
parts of those bars.
for sure.
Um, now, okay, let's say that gyms completely go off lockdown, and we don't know what the protocols are going to be around the country and different jurisdictions. Some will say, well, you need these masks, and they have certain distancing restrictions. Others might open up more freely. But what are Peloton buyers saying as to what their behavior will be post pandemic, if and when that happens, in terms of how they work out after having bought a Peloton?
Yeah, I mean, I think this chart really goes to show the stickiness and the retention. As you can see, half of them, will want to continue to mostly use Pelotons post in the new world. And I think a lot of it is just like, do you really want to go to a physical, gym where you've got your mask, you're sweating, change rooms, all of that. I think it's going to be a very new paradigm, and so a lot of consumers, as you see here, will stick with their Peloton. Some will supplement,
Hmm.
classes and gyms, but I do think a lot of consumers are just spending a ton on home fitness more than they had before, which I believe we have a chart on that one as well.
Yeah, we do, and this is looking at the focus post pandemic in terms of what people are looking to achieve with their workout. So if you've bought a Peloton and let's say you're in a city that's really locked down, you may not have the same ability to focus on strength exercises as opposed to cardio. And so I think this is what is missing for some people, which is why they'll say there's going to be a mix. And I think that is kind of the conventional thinking is you should have a balance between strength and cardio.
Sure.
And I would imagine it's pretty hard to get the strength aspect out of using just a Peloton.
It's hard unless you've got one of these.
So
uh,
what do you do? Like curls while you're
oh
while
yeah,
you're
some of the classes they'll say if you've got like a 5 pound little, smaller dumbbell, you're biking, and you're doing like strength training while you're biking. So it is possible. What I've been doing is, it's nice outside, but I find that because I haven't done weight training, you can pretty much get away with just body weight stuff if you haven't been super active, outside, and then use the Peloton for a mix of both cardio and weight training. And again, you just need some small dumbbells so you can bike and do some upper body stuff at the same time.
there you go. Okay, now this is our last chart that we're going to talk about in this episode, and this takes a bit to sort of wraps one's brain around. So I'll start by sort of focusing in on a couple of areas. So if we look at the legend right at the bottom, in pink we're looking at people pre-pandemic and pre-purchase of a Peloton, and we're looking at how much money they're spending on fitness. So before the pandemic and before buying a Peloton, on the very left-hand side, about 1 in 5 people, 19%, were not spending any money at all. And then if you look at the buckets of spending, you can see sort of the distribution of how much people are spending per month. Nothing really earth-shattering about that. But then if we switch to the green, now we're looking at people who are how much more they're going to spend on top of what they're paying for their Peloton, because there is, the amortized cost of the bike and access to the classes. So there is already an ongoing monthly cost. How much are they going to spend on top of that after the pandemic sort of unlocks or the health restrictions are relaxed where they live? And this I find very interesting. So half of them are not going to spend any more money.
Yeah.
And essentially what this is saying is, if you look at the peaks, the columns in the different buckets of spending, looking at green versus pink, it's on the higher end that people are pulling off their spending a little bit. And so what this tells me is that it's generally the more well-heeled people, or people are spending more on health and fitness in general, who are more likely to buy a Peloton. And this is going to pull some market share away from other fitness sort of retailers and service providers.
Yeah, I think people who weren't spending on any, not much before, big spike. I think at least I've realized that there's a lot of things you could just do at home. There's a lot of things you can do outside. There's a bunch of really cool companies. One, Lululemon bought a company called Mirror. So it's literally a mirror you put at home, and you can do like a workout class in front of this mirror. It's a digital mirror. There are all these like at-home digital fitness related hardware and software companies. There's one called Fight Camp that I just signed up for and bought. You can do punching, like a punching bag, and you get these trackers that you can track your punches, and all these things you can do at home. So I think it's this massive acceleration of at-home fitness, digital fitness that's happening, and a lot of those consumers that were spending a lot of money to get that experience at an actual high-end gym have realized, oh, I could probably do a lot of these things without having to spend that much money. So I think that's what's happening, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I think this is basically all this innovation that was almost pent up in the fitness industry is now being unleashed because of the pandemic has kind of forced the hand. And people are realizing, hey, listen, if we're going to try and launch something that's innovative and new and trying to disrupt these old, timeless model of, pushing iron and cardio at the gym, now is the time to do it. So we're seeing all this innovation. So Peloton is really kind of like a precursor to a whole bunch of other things that we're seeing. Like you say, I didn't even know about the punching with the trackers, but I have seen those big mirrors that have, the little video overlays on them. And it'll guide you through workouts and analyze your form and all this stuff. So very innovative stuff that's happening. But I want to ask you, you've got a Peloton in your background.
Yeah.
How much were you using it when you first got it? And how much are you using it now?
Yeah, I maybe I'm in that green. Maybe I was a green, not a purple in that chart. I mean, things are opening up. I want to be outside more. But hey, once winter comes, definitely we'll be on it a lot more. But definitely my usage has come down for sure. But I think that definitely is, correlated to a lot of things, including the weather. So
sure. Yeah. All right. If people want to learn more about this particular report, where would they go?
Yeah, Cartify.ai. CAR. I think it's on the screen.
Yeah. We've got a little watermark there in the top right corner. So it's Cartify.ai. You can get this report, which has looked at the charts that we've shown you here and more, and many other reports to show you how people are actually spending their money. Derek, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll see you in the next episode.
Anytime. See you soon.